Let's move on to main topic number 2. Buckle up, guys. And here we go. Main topic number 2 gets submitted to us by Faiz A, who writes, "Oh my God, John. AMC just said that they will no longer play any of Universal's films following Jeff Shell's comments on the on-demand success of Trolls 2. They really meant it when they said, 'We will not forget this.' What are your thoughts on this news? And do you think this will be permanent? Thanks, and have a great day." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, this hit everywhere yesterday, and it's important that we talk about it, but it's also important that we clear a couple things up. First of all, yes, there was a big statement that came out that said, here it is, and they dropped the hammer. This is what happened, and this is the order in which it happened, okay? So follow along with me here. A couple of days ago, the CEO of NBC Universal, Jeff Shell, went out and made this comment. Now, you have to understand, and Rob will be the first one to tell you this, that in this long-term relationship between studios and theaters, the most contentious thing you don't bring up at the dinner table during family meals, the most contentious thing that exists between theaters and studios is the theatrical window. That has always been the main point of contention in their otherwise very healthy relationship. And in the midst of all that, Jeff Shell, talking about the success of Trolls 2, said the following: "As soon as theaters reopen, we expect to release movies on both theatrical and digital formats." That's what he came out and said. Essentially stating that we're going to try putting movies out on demand, on VOD, and in theaters all at the same time. Essentially, we want to destroy the theatrical window, which is terrible for their partners, the movie theaters. In response, AMC CEO Adam Aron, who, by the way, was not CEO of AMC when I was there. Gary Sanchez was the CEO of AMC when I was there. So I've never met Adam Aron myself. But Adam Aron, CEO of AMC, said the following in a letter that he wrote to the chairman of Comcast, the bosses of NBC Universal, and said, "Going forward, AMC will not license any Universal movies in any of our 1,000 theaters globally on these terms." On these terms. All right. There are a couple things here that I think are going to be really important for us to keep in mind and keep at the forefront so we don't get lost in the details and miss some very important factors here. Factor number 1, AMC has not outright banned Universal films. Let's be clear about that. Number 2, there's people going around saying AMC banned Universal because of what happened with Trolls 2. Not at all. Where the problem has started was because Jeff Shell said, we're going to start releasing movies theatrically and on VOD. AMC basically said, under those conditions, if you do that, Universal, if you try to set up a situation where you're going to try to put movies on theaters and put them out on VOD at the same time, effectively screwing us over, under those conditions, we are not going to play your movies. So it's important to understand that. It seems like a small detail, but it's a vastly important detail. It's a vastly important detail. The other thing you need to keep in mind is this. There has always been a rule. This isn't new. For AMC theaters, Regal, Cinemark, Landmark, all the participating theaters in NATO, the North American Theater Owners Association, all the participating theaters in NATO, they have always had a rule. It's always been in place. It was in place when I was still at AMC theaters, and that rule in place was simply this. We do not play day and date movies on our screens. What that means is we do not play movies on our screens that they're also going to put out on VOD at the same time. We don't do it. I remember when I was at AMC theaters, that was an issue with a particular studio that was trying to put out a particular movie both in our theaters and on VOD at the same time, and we pulled the movie off our screens at the time. That's the same for Regal. That's the same for Cinemark. That has always been a rule. So you see Adam Aron coming out and saying, hey, Universal, if you do that, we're not going to play your movies on our screens. That's not new. That has always been the rule. That has always been the rule that the theaters have always had because they need to protect themselves, because that's not good for them or their business. So that's really important to keep in mind here, that when Universal came out and said that, they were coming out and spitting in the face of a commonly held practice and understanding between these two business partners, the studios and the theaters, for forever. Has always been part of that. But it was also, I believe, Rob, it was AMC basically saying to Universal, if you try to hurt us, we're going to hurt you right back. Because as we've just pointed out in the Trolls 2 situation, that even with all the circumstances lining up in their favor, Trolls 2 is going to end up being a financial disaster for Universal when it's all said and done. It's a financial disaster for them. And that is with everything working in their favor. If you don't believe and understand that Universal needs AMC, Regal, because I guarantee you if Universal tries to do this, it's not just AMC that's not going to play their movies, Rob. Regal's not going to play their movies. Cinemark's not going to play their movies. ArcLight's not going to play their movies. Landmark's not going to play their movies. Carmike's not, well, Carmike doesn't exist anymore. But none of these theater chains are going to play their movies if they do that, because the theaters know that is bad for them, and they've got to draw a line in the sand and say, look, if you want to do that, you go ahead. But if you try to hurt us, we're going to hurt you. And let's see how much money you make when there's not a lockdown, when kids are back in school, when all the adults have all other types of entertainment options and all that kind of, let's see how you do. And it's not good. And Rob, this is a situation where you have two parties. This is like the Cold War between the US and Russia. This is mutually assured destruction. Like, the studios can completely screw over the theaters, and the theaters can completely screw over Universal. And by the way, Universal is the only one doing this. Like, it seems like the theaters and all the other studios are getting along great and doing the best they can to navigate these terrible situations that we're in and all that kind of stuff. But it's volatile, Rob. And then, by the way, so AMC makes this statement saying, you go ahead and do that. Forget, we're the biggest distributor in the world. You can forget us playing your movies on our screens. And then NATO comes out and starts bashing on them as well. Actually, let me read this quote here, Rob, because this quote is damning. This quote is absolutely damning. Where do we go? Let's read this. This is from NATO, okay? This is the North American Theater Owners talking about Universal. This is what NATO said. Without any knowledge of the facts or the common courtesy, this is all the theater owners. Without any knowledge of the facts or the common courtesy to inquire about those facts, Universal nonetheless made reckless charge this evening that the company is disappointed by its seemingly coordinated attempt from AMC and NATO to confuse our position and our actions. Unfortunately, they go on to say, Universal has a destructive tendency to both announce decisions affecting their exhibiting partners without actually consulting those partners, and now making unfounded accusations without consulting their partners. Rob, this is how seriously Universal takes what AMC just said to them. Universal takes it so seriously that they immediately came out with a statement to backtrack what Jeff Shell said earlier. And they came out and said, oh, no, you just misunderstood us. No. Because they pushed and they got pushed back. And as soon as they got pushed back, they were like, oh, no, we didn't mean it. This is just NATO and AMC trying to misrepresent what we were actually saying. What we meant was, we're going to still put out movies theatrically, and we'll look at putting out movies on digital when it's the appropriate movie to do that. Rob, when you know that the number one problem area between you and your business partners has always been theatrical window, and you make the statement that he made, he knew damn well what he was saying.
Of course he did.
He knew damn well what he was saying, and he got pushed back, and I think his bosses at Comcast came down hard on Jeff Shell and said, you walk that back right now. And immediately Jeff Shell came out, hat in hand, tail between his legs, and said, that's not what we meant. No, we're totally committed to the theatrical window, yada, 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 yada. Rob, this is contentious, and this could get more contentious, because both these sides have to realize that they need each other. AMC's and the theaters of NATO and AMC, they've got to remember they need the studio films to survive. The studios know in order to make the money they need the movie theaters. And both of these sides have got to get their collective heads out of their asses and start sitting down and start working together to improve this for everybody instead of pissing at each other from across a demilitarized zone. They've got to get their heads together and straighten this out. So I don't know, Rob, anyway, you see this. In the words of Ron Jeremy, Rob, that escalated quickly. So what do you think about this whole thing as you look at this situation? I don't know. What do you make of it?
Wait, Ron Jeremy or Ron Burgundy?
I said Ron Jeremy, didn't I?
Where's your head at, John?
I said Ron Jeremy.
You said Ron Jeremy.
There's a different movie. There's a different movie altogether.
I was about to lose it.
That's a different scenario altogether.
But you know, if I might get, I don't want to be veering into political ground here, but I think this speaks to an overall problem that we have across our society. And that is, you know, what Universal is looking to do is maximize their profits. And there's nothing wrong with maximizing profits. However, if you think about movie theaters and the relationships that they have with studios, they have a good thing going. They do. I mean, look at the box office of last year with Disney's, all the movies they made that went to $1 billion. Movie theaters, as a business being supplied by the studios, everybody comes out right. But nowadays, corporate interests are always looking. We have to, every quarter, every fiscal quarter, we have to maximize our money. Well, at some point, the pursuit of only profit is going to end up destroying every part of society, because you have to have a fabric that works together. Movie theaters work with consumers, and it keeps the economy, the whole economy of the movie distribution system is something that works, and it's worked for 100 years. It theoretically could work for another 100 years. And you need these things. You need the studios to say, okay, we will play fair with our distributors. We want movie theaters to be healthy. We want that environment to be working. We want AMC to spend $5 billion making their theaters better and partnering up with Dolby Labs to create the Dolby Cinema experience, which you and I both know is terrific. You know, you think a movie studio chain is going to spend money if they take over movie theaters to make sure the exhibition is they're not going to go spend an extra $5 billion to make their theaters better. But AMC's one job is to show movies that the studios give them. And when they spend their own money upgrading their theaters, it's better for everybody. It's better for the consumer. It's better for the movie studios because their product gets shown in the best possible light, which means people will buy it or download it later because they have fond memories of the experience they had in the theater. So this continuum should be preserved. And if one side decides, yeah, fuck it, we're not gonna theatrical windows, well, then you might make some extra money in the short term, but what are you doing to that continuum in the long term? And does everybody just want to move into streaming? If you that's what you want to do, you want to just get rid of exhibition. So you've cut out that middleman, then just do it. Why make it this small incremental decline into chaos now for looking for a few extra bucks in the short term? I think we live in a society where people are doing that across the board. And at the end of the day, if all we care about is profit, we're all going to lose in the long run. Because what's important sometimes is also quality of life and the experience, because movie studios should demand that their products are shown in the best possible light. And frankly, streaming ain't it. Streaming is the way you maximize your dollars. But does it in the long run do more for you or not? And we've often talked about how when people throw up movies on a streaming service, you know, people watch them the first week and there's an excitement there. But you put something in a movie theater and it plays week after week after week, and the box office numbers stay up because it's a huge hit, like something like Avengers Endgame. Well, doesn't that do better? Isn't that better in the long run when a movie is solidified in the public consciousness like an Endgame is, or pick your movie that's made $1 billion? I mean, even Aladdin made $1 billion because people kept going to the movie theater and having a good time. And then later when they put it on streaming, it drives more subscribers. It's better off when the continuum is healthy, not when one company makes extra money up front in the short term. At least that's the way I see it.
Guys, this is an evolving story, and I'm sure there are going to be more things said. Of course, Universal said something, AMC and NATO said something, Universal came out and said something else. I expect AMC to say something else as well. So it does bring up the question that I wanted to put out to you guys. What do you think of this? So I made that the topic of today's question of the day. And in the question of the day, I simply asked you guys, Universal stated that they'll look at releasing movies on screens and home video at the same time. AMC says they'll ban Universal Films if that happens. Will Universal Films play at AMC and really by extension any of the NATO movie theaters? We discussed on the show. I asked you guys that just before the show started, but 1,800 of you guys have responded. 18.9% of you are saying no, Universal Films at AMC. Nope, there's not going to be any Universal Films at AMC. However, 81.1% of you are thinking, listen, these guys got to know this is mutually assured destruction. They will work it out. Somehow, some way, they've got to work it out. That's where it stands right now. So I ask you guys, what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think that AMC, and I guarantee you it will be all the movie theaters, will ban Universal Films, or do you think they both realize they need each other in time and figure this out and work it out? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And I can't wait to get to our live questions because I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a lot of live questions and interesting points of view on this. But before we get to live questions,